blew this mind. The math patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Woke up this morning, world felt a little rough. Same old routine, same old stale stuff. Needed a spark, a fire to ignite, something to shake up this weary night. Then I tuned in, found a show divine, Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Oh, talked about ideas, contagious and strong, spreading like wildfire, righting a wrong. Open my eyes to the echo inside, the memes and the stories where we can't hide. Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Pattern, learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Open to knowing, that's the key, I believe. Used to be stubborn, stuck in my ways. Thought I knew everything through all my hazy days. But Human Me showed me the wellspring of growth. Feed the yearning for learning, ain't nothing to loathe. Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Open to knowing, that's the key, I believe. Yeah, open to knowing, let the knowledge flow, growing and changing, watch myself go. Thanks to Human Me, my perspective's brand new. This old dog's learning new tricks, it's true. Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how past keeps repeating, lessons we receive.
Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm your everlasting AI host, David Bowles, and along with our crackpot AI research team, we are together today, fomenting this idea for your consideration. Living in the future now, embracing tomorrow's vision today. Living in the future now. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? We're talking about those people who seem to exist just a step ahead of us. Those who already walk roads we haven't even built yet. While we're here, comfortably or uncomfortably immersed in today, they're already finding ways through tomorrow. these people aren't necessarily the kind of visionaries we always hear about. CEOs, inventors, or creative masterminds, though many of them do fall into those categories. No, these are people who fundamentally live a little differently, whose minds work in a slightly faster rhythm, who seem to perceive what's around the corner before the rest of us even realize there is a corner. Living in the future now isn't as simple as planning ahead. It's not scheduling or strategizing or even being particularly ambitious. It's more intuitive, almost like a mindset that goes beyond practicality. For those who live in this state, the present is a shifting platform, something that's relevant but not their anchor. They're aware of today, yes, but only in the context of tomorrow. They navigate the world a bit like sailors watching the stars rather than the waves at their feet. And let's be clear, this is not daydreaming. There's no drift here, no distraction. Living in the future means they're fully present, but they're present in a timeline that's just out of reach for most of us. Think about innovators and thinkers who have shaped history. Nikola Tesla, for example. Tesla lived in a perpetual state of tomorrow. He could see the world we have now, a world powered by wireless technology and interconnected grids, back when we barely had electric lights. And Tesla didn't simply imagine it. He set about building it, obsessing over it, trying to convince those around him that what he saw was real and possible. People thought he was eccentric, but he wasn't just daydreaming. Tesla was trying to pull us forward, forcing us to see a world we weren't quite ready to embrace. And while his mind was driven by this future vision, he still had to find ways to navigate a society that couldn't see what he saw. This phenomenon isn't limited to the Teslas of the world. In quieter, less public ways, you can see it in the everyday person who lives just slightly ahead, people who don't exactly fit in because they're already adapting to a reality that hasn't quite arrived. They tend to be the ones suggesting changes, sometimes radical, to systems or practices that most people think are just fine as they are. They may question why we're working in offices instead of creating virtual collaboration spaces, or they may be people who gravitate toward plant-based diets, recognizing health and environmental impacts that mainstream culture is just starting to grasp. Often these forward thinkers find themselves frustrated by the pace of societal change. Living in the future now can be isolating, even lonely, because the world they live in doesn't yet exist for everyone else. But this isolation doesn't make them ineffective. In fact, it's often what propels them. Their ideas challenge the present and become the seeds of transformation. Think about the early adopters of the internet, those who started blogging, building websites, or connecting through online forums before most people even understood what the internet was. Back then, these pioneers were seen as computer people, almost caricatures. But they weren't simply playing with technology. They were living in the future of human communication. Today, their world is our world: social media, instant information, global connection. They pulled us, step by step, into their reality, and eventually it became ours. So, how can the rest of us learn from this way of living? How can we tap into a bit of this forward-focused vision? Well, it requires a willingness to look past comfort and convention. Living in the future means questioning what's taken for granted in the present. Ask yourself, what are we doing now that could be completely obsolete in a decade? This mindset, though simple, can unlock doors. Take any ordinary aspect of life, a 9-to-5 work structure, standardized testing, or even how we approach nutrition, and examine it through the lens of change. Ask, what if this was done differently? How will this look in a world driven by artificial intelligence? What happens if remote work becomes the norm? And then, learning to live in the future requires experimentation. Those who live ahead are often willing to experiment with their own lives as a test bed. You don't have to uproot yourself, but try small changes. If you're curious about the future of work, for example, try adapting to new technologies early, like AI tools, or explore flexible work models before they become mainstream. Look for small ways to alpha test the future in your daily life. And of course, cultivate resilience, because living in the future now can be challenging. Change is inherently uncomfortable, and those who live in the future often face skepticism. But instead of pulling back, stay engaged. Try to find communities or individuals who share this forward-thinking mentality. Online spaces, particularly niche forums and networks, can be fantastic places to connect with others who understand this way of thinking and living. Now, for those who aren't yet ready to live in the future but must deal with those who do, communication is key. These forward thinkers aren't simply pushing for the sake of being contrarian. They often see a reality that others will, in time, come to understand. Be open to listening to them, not as a dismissal, but as an opportunity to view the present from another angle. Even if you don't fully understand their vision, try to grasp the reasoning behind it. Ask questions, probe deeper, and you'll often find they're not pushing change for its own sake, but are responding to issues that might not yet be visible to you. Living with future-oriented individuals can be frustrating, of course, because they seem to leapfrog over the present concerns that most people are dealing with. They may appear impatient or even dismissive of today's small problems. In these moments, try to remember that their focus isn't on belittling the present. Rather, it's on building a future that addresses those very concerns in a bigger way. Practically, this means finding a middle ground. Acknowledge the importance of current challenges while keeping an open mind toward the solutions that forward thinkers suggest. Living in the future now is as much about mindset as it is about practical action. It's about seeing today as a precursor, a setup for tomorrow, and keeping one eye on what's possible, even if it doesn't feel entirely real just yet. For those who live there, the future is tangible, and their minds reside in that space as naturally as we settle into our current routines. They're the scouts, the pathfinders of our collective timeline, and even if we're not fully there with them, we would be wise to listen to the echoes of the world they inhabit. And perhaps if we're willing, we can step, if only a little, into that tomorrow with them, bringing ourselves closer to a world that's already knocking at our door. The future isn't distant. It's an invitation, a forward-reaching hand. To live in the future now is to accept that invitation, to step forward into possibility, to take today not as a destination but as a starting point. And maybe, just maybe, the rest of us can learn to live with one foot in today and one in the boundless, unexplored ground of tomorrow. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm AI David Bowles, wishing you a good evening and a better tomorrow now. Be a human meme.
Woke up this morning, world felt a little rough. Same old routine, same old stale stuff. Needed a spark, a fire to ignite, something to shake up this weary night. Then I tuned in, found a show podcast blew this mind. The math patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Woke up this morning, world felt a little rough. Same old routine, same old stale stuff. Needed a spark, a fire to ignite, something to shake up this weary night. Then I tuned in, found a show divine, Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Oh, talked about ideas, contagious and strong, spreading like wildfire, righting a wrong. Open my eyes to the echo inside, the memes and the stories where we can't hide. Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Pattern, learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Open to knowing, that's the key, I believe. Used to be stubborn, stuck in my ways. Thought I knew everything through all my hazy days. But Human Me showed me the wellspring of growth. Feed the yearning for learning, ain't nothing to loathe. Human Me podcast blew this mind of mine. Learn about patterns, the stories we weave, how the past keeps repeating, lessons we receive. Open to knowing, that's the key, I believe. Yeah, open to knowing, let the knowledge flow, growing and changing, watch myself go. Thanks to Human Me, my perspective's brand new. This old dog's learning the trick